Colum Eastwood to conclude on the motion, and the member has 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'm very glad to be able to rise and speak on this motion. As has already been pointed out, we are in an historic period. We are 15 years since the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, and whether people in this House like it or not, we're all here because of the Good Friday Agreement. There was a number of institutions created because of the Good Friday Agreement. This is one of them. The executives another. The North-South institutions are other institutions that were created as part of the Good Friday Agreement. One of the institutions, Mr. Speaker, it's no wonder that people are afraid of a civic forum where people will come and voice their concerns, when people in this House won't even listen to other members of this House when they're speaking. But the very
Order. The members concluding on the motion. Allow the member to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But the fact is, one of the institutions that hasn't been created and hasn't been sustained as part of the Good Friday Agreement was the Civic Forum. And the idea behind the Civic Forum was to allow all sections of our society an opportunity to come in and offer us all the advice and support and consultations that we needed to provide the best possible government for the people of this part of the world, the very best possible government. And when you look at where we are, Mr. Speaker, and all the issues that remain unresolved by this place, the past, the issues of fiscal powers, child poverty, a shared future, all these things haven't been resolved because we have failed, and we're still failing, and we're determined to keep going, ignoring the ideas of bringing people in from the civic society and trying to help us resolve some of those very, very difficult issues that we have failed to resolve. 23 months in from the renewal of this Assembly's mandate, we've about 11 pieces of legislation has passed this House. Many of them were pieces of legislation that have come from the British government that we just rubber-stamped. So nobody can tell me that we're doing everything that we can to get the best type of government, to involve as many people as we can, to deliver for all the different people, and to hear all the broad voices of our society. What have we got to fear from listening to the business community, from listening to the trade unions, the voluntary sector, the community? I'm sorry, Mr. Weir, I have a lot to get through, and you've already had an opportunity to. If I have time, I'll let you in later.
Order.
I know, and a lot of you spoke, so I want to make sure I have an opportunity to address all the things that you've said. Mr. McDevitt spoke eloquently about the Good Friday Agreement.
Very eloquently.
And it's 15 years since that agreement. And you see whatever anybody in this House thinks, that is a democratic agreement that was voted on by not only the people of Northern Ireland, but the people of Ireland as a whole. The first time that's happened since 1918. And the Democratic Unionist Party should finally, once and for all, get that through their heads. That has never been changed. It has been voted on by the people of this country, North and South. That's a fact. It's a democratic, sovereign agreement, and we all are duty-bound to do exactly what the people have asked us to do, and that's implement that agreement. Create the most participative democracy, as Mr. McDevitt talks about, that the Good Friday Agreement envisaged, and the Civic Forum was a key part to that. Mr. Moutry talked about the financial difficulties that we face, and we don't ignore that. We don't ignore that one bit. But you know, it would be a lot better when we're talking about this if we're really, really honest. We're really honest about the cost of things. The Civic Forum, what was it, £500,000? How much does the monarchy cost? 200 million? How much did policing? How much did policing? How much? So you don't want to listen. You don't want to listen. You don't want to listen. How much?
Order. Let's not have debate across the chamber. Order. Allow the member to continue. The member must be heard.
Well, that's the nature of democracy, Mr. Wells. Even if I'm talking rubbish, you still have to listen. So, how much, Mr. Speaker, did it cost? How much did it cost to police? How much did it cost to police the recent flags dispute? It did nobody, whatever anybody in this place says, did nobody any good whatsoever. £18 million, I think that cost. The cost of parades, £100 million. let's put this into context. That's the cost of dealing with all those difficulties. The previous cost of listening to civic society was £500,000. I don't think that's too high a price to pay for trying to involve as many people as possible, trying to bring about the best possible government that we can bring about. And Mr Moody also talked about reviewing our effectiveness in here. I agree with him. We're not effective at all. I've already talked. So sorry, I can't hear you. I'll give way once.
I thank the member for giving way. And you say about the effectiveness of individuals. Well, then maybe you could say, in terms of your own contribution in the various committees you have, in terms of your attendance rate at those committees.
Mr Clark, but that issue's already been addressed. I'm not going to go into it again. For your sake. I've already addressed it.
Order.
Ms. Fearon, Megan Fearon, talked about the growing sense of apathy in our community. No wonder when you watch some of the debates in this place and the contributions made by some of the people in this place, people who aren't prepared to listen to different points of view. And she's right. She's right when she says, Mr Speaker, that children, young people and older people need to be more involved in our type of democracy that we have here. And we need to tackle the fact, Mr Speaker, that there's far too many people in here who are too old and too old of one particular.
Order. I must say I have given a number of warnings. Order. I have to say I've given a number of warnings to a number of members in their actions. And we have a member who is concluding on a debate. The contribution that he's making, members may not disagree with, but they should listen as parliamentarians. That's important. And let me say, should I rise again, I will take action. Let me warn members. Allow the member to continue.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Someone said that age is a...
Point of order, Mr Spratt.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Is it right for a member of this House to class the dispersions on older people, which I class myself as one within this House? It certainly would not be an equality issue in terms of other issues.
Order. I've always warned members to be careful and be mindful of the terminology that they use in this House. And I'm sure the member will want to clarify his position. Order!
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I'm very aware of my responsibilities. And if I had been allowed to finish, people would understand that age is not just a time of life, but it's a state of mind. And there's far too many people in here, Mr Speaker, who are living in the past and are far too old in terms of their attitude. But we also have a very real difficulty, Mr Speaker, and Ms Fearon talked about not engaging properly with young people, not understanding their needs, and the Civic Forum would be one way of doing that. I was disappointed to hear Mr Nesbitt talking about, yes, of course, the need to support the spirit of the agreement, but his party actually signed the Good Friday Agreement. And you don't only support the spirit, you support the detail of an agreement that you sign. An agreement that you sign with the people of Northern Ireland. No, I'm sorry, Mr Nesbitt, but I have very little time left.
Let's not have debate across the chambers. Quite obviously, the member has no intention of giving away. Order. Order. Let us move on. The member has the floor. The member will decide whether he wants to give way or not. Allow the member to continue.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. But it is unfortunate that the Ulster Unionist Party have again moved away from not only the spirit but of the detail of the Good Friday Agreement, because I believe, no, I won't give way, because I believe, Mr Speaker, that it is in the spirit of the Good Friday Agreement to engage with civic society and to involve them in a participative democracy, and the Civic Forum would do that. Mr Little obviously agreed with what we're saying in terms of the need for collaboration with civic society, and also talked about reinforcing the Good Friday Agreement. Mr Ross talked again about the pressures on public finances, and I've already addressed that. He also quoted the late Margaret Thatcher on socialism. I hope that he also supports the good work that Margaret Thatcher did in signing the Anglo-Irish Agreement, that was the precursor, There was a precursor for Irish governmental involvement in Northern Irish affairs, the precursor to the Good Friday Agreement, of which the Civic Forum was a very, very important part. He also talked about the values and the good parts of the Unionist Forum and the fact that it cost nothing to the public purse. I hope then that Mr Ross can reassure us that it isn't costing the public purse any money, that it will never cost the public purse any money, that there are no special advisers involved in supporting the Unionist Forum, and I'll give him the opportunity to correct that and reassure this House that there will be no public cost to that particular organisation. But Ms McGahan talked about the need for, again, about active participation between civic society in this part of the world, and I've already talked about that. I'm trying to speed through here, Mr Speaker, because I have very little time left. But Mr Dallatt, you'll be glad to hear, yeah, thank you. Mr Dallatt talked about the greatest weapon of any democracy is the widest involvement of civic society. I don't think anyone could say it better. It is clear, though, Mr Speaker, that listening to representatives from across this House, and I've said this already, they have no intention, not only of listening to me or of listening to anyone on this side of the House, but they're not giving anybody out there any confidence that they have any intention of listening to civic society. And I think that's a sad thing. Mr Cree talked about the fact that we, and I'll try and quote him accurately, that we do not want another quasi-parliamentary, unelected. I'll try and quote him correctly, Mr Speaker. Mr Cree said we do not want another quasi-parliamentary, unelected chamber. I hope then, if the call comes, that Mr Cree will turn down any opportunity to sit in the House of Lords. Thank you very much, Mr.